Hey guys, Marissa at KitchenTableStamper.com. I have got a case card for you today. What does that mean? Well, CASE is an acronym that either means copy and share everything, or I have heard it as create a similar expression, and I kind of like that one because I don't usually case things and make exact copies. And this card was cased from the annual catalog, the Stampin' Up! 2018-2019 annual catalog, with a few modifications that I'd like to talk to you about as we make the card. So this is the Under the Mistletoe suite from the 2018-19 annual catalog, and this right here is the card that I just fell in love with. I love this card, and so I thought I'd create a similar expression. All right, let's get started. I'm going to show you the supplies that I used to make this card. I have my Mistletoe Seasons photopolymer stamp set, my designer series papers, also from the Under the Mistletoe suite. This is the Under the Mistletoe designer series paper. I have my tailored tag punch. I use that for the little dovetail ends on the banner. Love a multitasker. Stampin' pads are Night of Navy and Old Olive. My consumable supplies for this project is where things get interesting. So if you remember the one that I showed you in the catalog, the card that we're casing, it had a complete card front, this designer series paper, this red pattern from Under the Mistletoe. What I'd like to show you, what I'd like to submit for your consideration is using a real red card base, 8.5 by 5.5, scored at 4 1/4. And instead of a large piece of designer series paper to cover the whole card base, I would like to submit the idea of using designer series paper strips. So this is a 5 1/4 inch by 3/4 of an inch strip of designer series paper. That's what the back looks like. It's got some beautiful ornaments on it and that more of that little mistletoe design. And instead of blocking off the entire card front with your designer series paper, meaning that you get between 4 and 6 cards from a full 12 by 12 sheet, I'm suggesting that you take your designer series paper, cut it into strips, and then adhere 5 1/4 inch strip with an equal border all the way around top, left, bottom, and then take another strip and do the same on the opposite side. So you're looking for that equal border around the top, right and bottom this time. And you want to check your line visually, make sure that you have an equal border. And with a little bit of careful placement, you can get so many more cards from your designer series paper pack. So there's our little borders. Now once we stamp our Whisper White panel, and the Whisper White panel is also 5 1/4, and the width is 2 3/4. Okay, so once you've placed your designer series paper, and you can bring in your 2 3/4 inch wide Whisper White panel, nobody will ever know that you don't have a full sheet of real red pattern paper behind. Think of how many more holiday cards you can send with this little optical illusion. All right, so besides those pieces there, we've got a piece of Whisper White cardstock. This one is 3/4 by about 4 1/4. That's for our greeting. And we've got 2 3/4 by 1 inch of the Old Olive plaid from the Under the Mistletoe. All right, let me get my Stampin' Pierce mat and we'll get stamping here. Got my Old Olive and Night of Navy Stampin' pads, and I'm going to ink up my mistletoe with Old Olive. First step, and you want to make sure you got a good solid coverage. All right, then next up we're going to need some scratch paper, and we're going to ink up our outline bow in Night of Navy, stamp that in, then the inside of our bow We're gonna ink that up with Night of Navy, stamp off on the scratch paper, and then fill in the bow. So we'll get that nice two-tone effect. Isn't that beautiful? All right, then back to the Old Olive. We're gonna take these little fern branches, we're gonna take these little pine boughs and stamp them in kind of at the base here, right up by the bow. We'll set this aside for just a minute. Next, we've got Joy and Love. For our greeting, we're gonna stamp that on this 3/4 of an inch strip here, right in the center. And there's our Night of Navy stamping. Now, before you put the Old Olive stamp pad away, we're gonna open it up. I've got some ink in the cup to use your aqua painter, but make sure that your aqua painter is not too wet because you're working on Whisper White cardstock with water-based ink, stamped with water-based ink. So the outline of this image is water-based. You don't want a real wet aqua painter. Your images will run and your colors will separate. So you're gonna grab a little bit of ink from the case here and just touch inside each of these open leaves. You don't want a lot of water and you don't want a real heavy ink. It's a very light touch. You can color a couple of these little images in each time you ink up the brush. There, I'm pretty happy with that. All right, clean your brush and let's clear away the ink pad. I think sometimes people who are considering the Stampin' Up opportunity get a little bit concerned about where their creativity is going to come from, how they're going to be able to inspire others and have enough ideas. And I'd like to encourage anybody who's thinking about joining the kitchenettes, about becoming part of the Stampin' Up family. I'd like to encourage you to, if that's your concern, don't worry about it. Let it go. There is so much inspiration in the catalog, in the publications, in the Stampin' Success magazine. Stampin' Up does such a good job of supporting their demonstrators creatively, and as a kitchenette you'll be welcome to all of my online classroom classes for free, all of my Stampin' Anonymous tutorials for free, and all of my paper and ink card classes. We do them first as team meeting projects, both online and in person. So if you're concerned about creativity and that's what's holding you back from joining the kitchenettes, think twice. There's tons of inspiration everywhere you look, and it's okay to case a card. All right, so here's our card. We've glued down our center panels, and I'm gonna take my tailored tag punch and I'm gonna just dovetail the ends here. I wanna kind of see my greeting, and we're gonna take a good inch chunk off the end of here. You can always take a little bit more. Maybe we'll go about 3/4 of an inch. Yeah, I think that's pretty good. Now we want about equal distance on the other side here. I think that's probably about right. That's a little long on the Joy side. I'm gonna take it just a smidge more off of the Joy side. There we go, not too bad. Last step here, add a little bit of dimensional adhesive to the back of our sentiment. I love this design. It's a quick one. You can stamp them all up, make a bunch if you've got quite a few cards to send with a little dimensional adhesive just under the banner here. Postage should not be too expensive on these, and you can absolutely put the Joy and Love banner down flat. In the US, if your cards get too thick, the postage gets a little bit high, but this one's nice, simple, low profile card that's easy to make a bunch of and affordable when you use that trick with the designer series paper. Would you ever know that I cut the center out of those? All right, you guys, if you've got any questions about the project, Stampin' Up, the kitchenettes, becoming a demonstrator, if there's anything I can do to help you stay crafty, email me, Marisa@kitchentablestamper.com. Thanks for watching.